Welcome to the Breakthrough to Excellence podcast. I'm Jasmine Haley, healthcare provider turned educator, entrepreneur, and startup strategist. Not too long ago, I was burnt out, overwhelmed, depressed, and full of fear from a toxic work environment. I created my business out of necessity to create a legacy I can be proud of today. It helps me transform the lives of women every single day to pursue their dreams and entrepreneurial goals. I created this podcast to share the empowering stories of entrepreneurial women, help you break through self-doubt to your greatness, and share business strategies to help you create a thriving and profitable business. If you are an emerging entrepreneur or business owner that wants to create the mindset needed to escape burnout, reclaim your personal power, and pursue your entrepreneurial dreams, this podcast is for you. Stay tuned and listen in. Welcome to the Breakthrough to Excellence podcast. I am your host, Jasmine Haley, and our guest for this week's episode is Laura Tynan. And she is the founder of LauraTynan.com. She is a business coach and mentor on a mission to support ambitious professionals to achieve their big career goals and accelerate in their career or transition out of the corporate world and turn their creative ideas into a successful reality. Laura is an international award-winning speaker and was recognized by the Financial Times as a top 20 future female leader and by Yahoo Finance as a global champion of women in business. Laura spent the last decade building a highly successful international career in finance, advising C-suite clients on high-profile, multi-million-dollar deals, but became increasingly frustrated by being the only woman in the room again. Her passion for supporting women and improving gender equality, eventually became the driving force behind launching her own coaching business. Laura is the creator of the Corporate Breakout Code and host of the podcast by the same name, providing women with the inspiration, support, and strategies to transition out of the corporate world and start a successful business that they are passionate about. Welcome to the show, Laura.
Thank you, Jasmine. Really happy to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you and get to hear your story. I know it's going to be phenomenal. First of all, I just want to say a huge congratulations to you starting your podcast and the success you've already have already, which is awesome.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I saw that you made, I think, a trending list or something like that. And so anybody that's starting a podcast, that is like one of the major things that you definitely want to reach when you first come out. So I'm
100%.
very excited for you.
I actually came in behind Tim Ferriss in Entrepreneurship, which was just a very surreal moment because I have like his best-selling books on my bookshelf. So
wow.
number 4 and Tim was at number 3 in Entrepreneurship. That was a bit of a moment. Definitely.
Yes. That is fantastic. I didn't even know that. First of all, I love listeners. If you have never read The 4-Hour Workweek, it will transform how you view how you're handling your life in general, but just your business too. Because we already know we work ourselves to death. So let's get into you, Laura, though. Tell us, I want to know what led you into your entrepreneurial journey. Give us more of a history of what led you there, because obviously you were very successful in your 9 to 5, which is probably 9 to 10.
Yes.
But tell us about that transition for you and what that was like.
Sure. So I was always very career driven, even as a young girl, I came from a very middle class family back in Ireland. So I grew up in the south of Ireland. And so my parents always wanted us to have what they didn't. They never went to university. So us going through good schooling and making it to university and getting that first good job was such a success. And it was a real moment of celebration. And I really continued on that trajectory. And coming out of university, even in university, everything I was supporting myself from a financial point of view. So the idea of starting my own business or being an entrepreneur never even crossed my mind, to be honest, Jasmine. I was very, had my head down to get the next big job in a big company and have a great role and set myself up in that term. So, I had been 4 years into my finance career. And I was working in a big 4 consultancy firm back in Dublin in Ireland. And, I think we have this idea of what our career is going to be. And then we find the reality of it when we start, moving more into it. And I just found myself sitting at my desk one too many times thinking, is this really it? Is this everything I've worked for all those long hours and late nights and all the effort I've put in? This is it. And I just felt this massive sensation of unfulfillment and just kind of a sense of void. So I really began searching for an answer because, on paper, I should have been successful. I should have been happy. I should have, been joyous in this space. This is what I'd worked for so long. Um, and so by a random mix of events, I uncovered this guy who you may know called Bob Proctor. And at the time, personal development wasn't really even in my world, especially in Ireland. It wasn't something that we spoke about. Um, and I just decided, you know what, I want something really big to change here. So I literally within 2 weeks had jumped on a plane to Toronto, spent about 75% of my salary. I took out a loan from the bank and decided to go to one of his big intensive events. So there was a small group of us there. And I learned firsthand from, who's an incredible leader, an incredible thought leader and teacher in the space of mindset and how our thoughts really control everything, about how we can use our mind to create a reality and that anything is possible for us. Um, so really after coming back from that experience back to Dublin, I had a completely new shift in perspective, a new mindset, and I resigned from my job and thought, I want to do something different here. Although I didn't quite know what that would be. Sometimes you may decide to make a change and you don't really know what that change is going to look like, but you have something has to change. So I started, burning my bridges in a sense and just making these big decisions, making these big changes. And an incredible opportunity came my way to move to London to work with this team where I would be traveling around the world and kind of living out the dream that 19-year-old me had envisioned. That excitement of working on big deals, of, advising CEOs of companies, of traveling around, staying at the best hotels and all that. Um, so Jasmine, I had done that for about 3 years and it was like the next success and it was great. And again, a big success on paper and everything I was hoping and working towards. But despite the salary and the travel and the luxuries and all of it, there was still something inside me that wasn't clicking. There was too many days that I was like, I should be really happy here, but I'm not. There's something not right. And really that again, another change came. It began on a new venture. Kind of to add to that, gender equality was something I was really passionate about, having realized how many times I walked into a boardroom as the only woman. I was getting so fed up of it and so frustrated. I was like, how are there not more women here? So, I had been working with women's organizations, working with leadership to really make a change for women in business. I was, co-chairing one of our women's network. I was mentoring young women and kind of other peers in my industry. And I just had this wake up call one moment when I was about to turn 30 and looking at the next chapter of my life, realizing, how do I want that to look? What am I passionate about? What do I really want my life to be about? What kind of legacy do I want to create? How do I want to spend my days? And, after doing a lot of kind of interpersonal work and a lot of kind of self evaluation, I realized, this, what I've been doing from the gender equality side, empowering women, that's where my heart lies. That's what I'm passionate about. That's really where I want to play full out and dedicate all my energy, all my time, everything I have to really make a difference. Let's make a real change in our lifetime and not wait 120 years, which the research tells us it will take. So in a nutshell, that's kind of how I've ended up doing this.
Yeah, yeah. So I really, that made me laugh because I'm telling you, it certainly feels like even if you wait a year, it's 120 years of
Yeah.
waiting, right, to make a
Hmm.
decision. I find it very interesting that you mentioned that you went to this almost like transformative event where you invested, quite a bit, and yet you still went back into like a corporate world and didn't really venture into the entrepreneurship side. And I love that you share that because I feel that, a lot of people, our listeners are emerging entrepreneurs. They're in that year 1 through 5. They normally beat themselves up. They're like, why haven't I made the change yet?
Mm,
Why haven't I gone forward? Oh, it's too late because I've waited for however long. And I've gone here and I've gone here and I've taken this course and I've taken that course and I still haven't started that business. And what I really love is that you shared the mindset shift that you went through because of that event, but it still took you some time to venture out into entrepreneurship. And I think that's really encouraging to hear, especially for our listeners, because a lot of them deal with, when do I pivot? And is it too late for me to do that?
Well, it's never too late, ever. We always have the right and the choice to decide again and decide what we want our life to look like. For me at that point in my life, there were things I thought I might like to do. Like I looked at network marketing for a while and it wasn't really a model that worked for me as much. And so I looked at different things, but there was nothing that really felt like this is where I want to give my full effort to. And the opportunity to move to London was everything I had ever dreamed of. It was what I thought finance would be. And it was a very exciting career. But, the higher up I got in the firm and the closer I began to work with their global leadership, it was just the more I realized this isn't the world for me anymore. Maybe it was for me 4 years ago, but where I am today in my life, it just wasn't or the right fit anymore. And so, the entrepreneurial journey can begin at any stage. And I think that's important to remember as well, because I never started out thinking I would have my own business. But it was this passion and this desire to create a change led me there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you have to be in a place where you are still enough to listen to that
Mm,
inkling, because if you're busy, 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 busy all over the place, you can miss that calling that you have. I
yeah.
think it's so powerful that you were able to still hear that. And I have met so many people. There's a book. I don't know if you ever read this book. It's from I think she's from Australia. Her name is Bronnie Ware. She wrote about the top 5 regrets of those dying.
Yeah, I've heard of
Um,
this.
and it was a very, very good book. A little slow starting off, but it was like, okay. So it was talking about some of the work that she did in long-term hospice care. And I often, tell my clients and the people I talk with, and the reason why I made the change in my life, is that you don't want to get to a place 5, 10 years from now and regret not even taking that one small chance to make that change, especially if it keeps coming up, if that
Yeah.
whisper keeps coming up, you
hmm
know?
You got to listen to those, and I think it's something important for us to remember. Like, life, okay, it's the longest thing we'll ever do, but it's also short. And, if there's something that you're really passionate about, if there's something that you really desire to do in life, if that's a business, then why not? Why not at least give yourself the chance of trying that? Your worst case scenario is you may end up back where you began. But I look at the amount of experience you've had, the learning lessons, the growth, everything, and you won't ever end up back where you are. You're going to end up miles ahead, but at least you'll never have a regret for not at least giving yourself the chance to try. I think it's so important to remember. And I love that you say these whispers that come up because, meditation and mindfulness and personal development practices, they are so critical to everything I do. Even when I'm working with my clients, it's such a big part of it. Yes, there's strategy, but the strategy alone is never enough. The personal development, the mindset work is so, so key. And, if that whisper comes up, there's some calling within you, you have to listen because I love what Marie Forleo says. She says, there's no extra people on the planet. We are all here for a reason. And if you have a desire to do something and I have a desire to do something very different, there's a reason for that. We have different gifts and talents that we need to bring into this world. And it's our responsibility to really to hear that and actually go and pursue them.
Yes. I was trying not to be too loud because normally I'm like, yes, girl, yes. I love that. Like, I cannot tell the listeners enough that the foundation for a successful business is that inner work.
Mm,
I feel, and I spend
yeah.
so much time talking about that. I spend so much time talking about fear. I spend so much time talking about being burnt out, being overwhelmed, because once you get over that, like once you have that shift, and even then, it's not like you completely get over it because I feel like there's certain levels. Like, even though I've been in business for a couple of years and I'm in this huge transition of my business going outside of dentistry, moving into a different industry, those mindset things that I dealt with like at the very first year of having a
hmm
business are starting to creep in again.
Yeah.
But it's like you will not have longevity in entrepreneurship unless you do that work.
100%. And it's so interesting, especially, I work predominantly with corporate women and we've been conditioned in this very male environment which is very masculine, energy driven, right? To have strategy, and you need to have plan and process and everything. And yes, there is an absolute time and place for that, but we also need to embrace the feminine energy, that feminine side of our being, and realize like that inner work, the ability to listen and be guided by your intuition, um, is so important. It's not lesser than the best strategy, or it's not lesser than an MBA. And I've met with so many women who have, the biggest accolades and the biggest qualifications of everything. And they said, what made my business a success was when I started to invest in myself. It has to be where your investment lies at the beginning and
Yes.
throughout, actually. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes. Every year I have committed to joining a large program, whatever that is, like
Hmm.
invest in something. So whether it's
Yeah,
Marie Folio's program or Jessica Rodriguez, who I've worked with last year for quite some time, I'm always trying to get to that next level because I already know that I can't do this entrepreneurship journey on my own. Like we just can't.
absolutely. No,
We can't.
it's impossible. You might be in your business on your own, but to think that you can get there on your own to that level of success that you desire, it's very challenging. And for me, continuously investing in my own personal development and hiring other coaches to support me, to see where are my blocks, what am I not seeing right now, how am I holding myself back that I don't even realize. It's so incredibly important that we're constantly pushing ourselves forward. And as a coach to so many women, I'm such an advocate of coaching that I also love working with my own coach, right? It all goes 360. So yeah, absolutely agree.
Yeah. So I'm curious for the corporate woman, why are there women that are interested in breaking out? Like, what's their drive for that? And
Um,
why is that your niche? Other than go through it yourself. But I'm curious to know that because I don't know that many corporate women. I'm coming from a healthcare field. And
mm,
so I want to know, what are some of the reasons why that they're venturing out and breaking out?
so the women that come to me, including so many others, have incredible talents and gifts and creativity that they want to express, and these big ideas that they would love to turn into a reality. Um, but they have this misbelief or this fear that it's not possible for them. They might look at people on social media and think, oh, well, they were lucky and they made it happen, but that's not possible for me. And, often we can lie to ourselves and think that we're happy because we have a good salary, we work at a good firm, and things are good. But if we're honest with ourselves, we all know that good isn't really ever good enough. And that this question comes up time and time again, which is where I was at maybe, 7 years ago of, is this really it? And I've met so many women who find themselves sitting at their desks, feeling unfulfilled, feeling like they're stuck in a box. They're being told who they are, what they can be. Their ability to really grow and accelerate has been capped or limited. And they want more expression. They want freedom. They want freedom of expression, of time, of financial wealth and abundance. They're spending 80% of their time, of their week, working for someone else, and they don't even have control over their own financial freedom. And it's unlikely that they ever really get there given the way salary structures work and the way bonuses are capped. It's incredibly hard. And, working within those male dominated environments can be quite toxic as well, because we lose touch with our feminine side and we believe that to be successful, we need to just live in our masculine. And that's incredibly unhealthy. Not just for, ourselves as being, but like for our health, for relationships. It has such an impact on so many other parts of our life. So women feel that, but they don't always know what to call it. They don't know how to label it, but they know something's not right and they want the change to happen. So I really work with them to support them in having the confidence, the self belief, the awareness, helping them clarify their ideas. What does that look like? And helping them understand what kind of business is possible for them and really take them on that journey. So, like, as you can imagine, mindset and personal development is a massive part of that. And then obviously providing them with the strategies to start that business and how do you make that transition out of a corporate world, which can feel safe and secure, although I would massively question that, because often it isn't.
That's true.
It's a false sense of security.
Yes.
yeah, and start something that many would perceive as risky, but at least you're doing something that you're excited by and you're passionate about.
Yeah, so similar feelings. I feel like you were talking about me. I'm like, what? Who's she
Yeah.
talking about?
I think, any of us have gone through this journey. We obviously all hit the same point at one point, of that
Yeah.
wanting more for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like most entrepreneurs think that they want to have a greater impact. And I know that for me, one of the first books I read when I was going through my, I would say, awakening, because I was
Hmm.
in a really bad place emotionally, and I was in a very toxic work environment. I mean, extremely toxic. And the book that I read was by Brendan Burchard. It was called Motivation Manifesto. And
Mm.
it sounds a little crazy, the title of it, but it came with a 10-week course. It was my first personal development course ever. And it was the first time that I heard personal freedom and professional freedom. Like I had never heard
Yeah.
of that. I didn't even think it was possible. But I feel like that woman inside of me was like caged and I was just
Mm.
screaming to come out. And because I was in a place where I felt like I attracted certain type of personalities that were either narcissistic or personalities that were not going to benefit me in any shape or form, but just oppress me. I was finding ways to cage myself even further in personal relationships, my work relationships. I mean,
Yeah.
everything. Great husband and kids, but everything else in my life was like psh, terrible.
Yeah.
Okay. So I find that I don't know where I was going with that, but
No, but it's a great
it's
point
true.
though, because that sense of being trapped and not able to be free to express who you truly are is a very real challenge that so many women and perhaps men also face, because you're in an environment where you may have to dress a certain way or behave a certain way to accelerate to get to the top. And it's not natural to us. And we all seek our highest form of expression. And, since stepping out of that world and really having the power and freedom to create a business that I love, that helping women around the world and doing something that I know truly is my mission in life. Like I feel like I've stepped into my most truest self that I've ever had, which is so liberating.
I love that you said that, Laura. This is getting deep. So
Yeah.
I mean but it needs to be, this is a good conversation. Because we as women, we have masks. We have to. Like
Mm,
you're worried about whether, regardless of where you are, I'm getting too emotional, right? Or for me, I've dealt with depression and anxiety.
hmm.
Don't show my vulnerability or weakness, because who in their right mind will ever want to have me as an employee or to have me as their coach, whatever the case may be. And then there's another layer of that too with me as a woman of color. There's another mask and a layer that I have to worry and navigate with when I feel
Mm,
like, do I really fit here? And I feel that, if we don't talk about that, I love the fact that you mentioned that, the mask that we have to put on,
mm,
um, how that could affect our creativity, how it can affect our ability to really thrive personally, professionally,
yeah.
and really getting down to the ugly parts of us that kind of hinder us from living a thriving personal or professional life.
100%. And honestly, starting your own business is like the most intense personal development course I've ever been on,
Hmm.
because anything that you're not owning up to, anything that you're not being honest about with yourself, it comes up in your business because there's going to be a block, in terms of maybe attracting the right clients or financially, or something's not in place, something's not flowing right. And it's something internal that you need to address that you're shying away from. So it really forces you to look at the areas that I found, even working in corporate, were easier to hide from, because you have your title, you have your salary, you come to work, you do what's needed, and then you can go out and you can network with people in the evening and you kind of repeat that again and again. You don't have this time to really go, this is my business. This is a complete reflection of everything I am, everything I do, everything I'm becoming. If there's a challenge in my business, it's because there's a challenge internally. So, really starting your business, it's this whole journey. It's not just, registering your company and then having a website and saying, okay, go.
Hmm.
There's so much more behind it, which is also the part I love working with clients on, because I know that's the exciting part, the growth and the exploration, and that's where new ideas come from and the passion can be really ignited to another level. But it's a journey, and starting your own business is no joke, and it's not easy, but it is so worth it. So worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Going back to your journey, Laura, when you finally decided to get to that place of starting your business, how did you make that transition? Did you go all in? Because I was one of those people that just went all in, right? I don't recommend that. I say plan and take a little, take your time. But what was that like for you?
It does, and that's hilarious that you say this, because every like female entrepreneur I speak to goes, "Well, I went all in, but I would definitely advise other people not to." Right? And that's exactly what I say as well. I'm like, I went all in. The moment I said, "This is I'm done now with corporate. I want to start my own business." Pretty much within days of deciding that, I went and handed in my resignation, and I was gone within 3 months once I had served out my time,
Girl,
and that was it. You
yes,
know, but also I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. And, depending where you are in your career and where you are in your life, and what feels right for you, you can just as easily invest in your side hustle for now. You know, can we get client validation? Can you see if this is a real business concept? Is there demand for it? Can you get financially into a stable place that you can support yourself in the early months where you're still learning and testing things out? So there's a bit more of a strategic thought out process that I would definitely take a client through, um, to help her better prepare for that transition. But equally, there's also women like us who are like, I'm ready, let's just go. And they
right.
just take that step and, go head first into it. And obviously, it can work too, but it very much depends on the individual for sure.
Absolutely. Because as Laura has said, it is no joke. And
Hmm.
I would say that I have grown in leaps and bounds by starting a business. And I'm so
Yeah.
thankful for that. But I also realized too, like before I started my business, I was in a position where I didn't want to always speak my mind. I was kind of scared. Now I feel like I'm a little too strong.
Is that possible?
I don't know. I mean, because right now I moved further south in the U.S. and
Hmm.
Southern people are not as they're slower pace. They are more like friendly, and you can't come on too strong for them. So I realized I was like, wow, I've changed quite a bit. I've got to learn how
Yeah,
to kind of pivot a little bit here for them.
interesting. Different
All
cultures
right.
again.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. All right. So when you one of the last questions I want to ask about your journey, Laura, especially since you've grown such a great community, what would you say was one of the keys for you to be able to grow your community, especially going from one industry in corporate industry and now into the business world? Um,
Mm.
what was that like for you, that transition, and how were you able to do that?
So I suppose in terms of community, if we look first at kind of clients and the women I would support, I think for anyone looking to start a business, the first step always needs to be really understanding who is your client, who is that ideal client for you. And, if you've done a Marie Forleo's course, you and I both know that this is such a crucial first step, right? But really getting into their head and understanding how can you best serve them. So everything you do, it needs to be very focused on that individual and how you can turn up to help address their needs, their challenges, be quite specific around that. In terms of building a broader community, I feel very lucky to say that the women in my life are all empowered females. They are supportive, and there's a real sense of sisterhood. Um, I think when you grow, when you want to move anything to the next level, inevitably there's going to be some people that exit your life also. and that's okay. But I'm always very conscious of who I also allow into my life because the energy and that dynamic has such a massive impact on us. So I've been lucky in that sense to be able to grow that community. Um, but it's also by coming from a genuine place. I know there is a strange dynamic in the world where gender equality, female empowerment have become almost buzzwords. And so there may be people in that space that are there for the wrong reasons or for reasons that are more self-centered, or they're out for themselves in a more sense like that. Um, but for me, empowering women, helping them to really kind of unleash their greatest potential and achieve their greatest success, that is the core of who I am. It's everything I do, from the charities I get involved with to where I put my money, to the work I do, to leaving behind a very successful corporate career to go full in and actually want to help women. And so I live and breathe this. And I think as women, we know that we can feel that in someone. So that's who you attract. And so the women I'm with equally love that. That's what they do. That's how they live their life. And so it really allowed me to connect with the right type of people. It's almost like relationships. To I meet the ideal person, you first have to be the person that would meet them. So it's the same with friendships as well. You kind of get back what you are.
Yeah, yeah. You are so heart-centered. I love it. I love it. And I love the fact that you are because it helps, especially the listeners, the entrepreneurs out there that feel like, oh, I'm too soft. I care too much. No, you can be successful and care.
Yeah.
So I
And I
love
think
that.
even more so, I spent 10 years living in a very masculine world. And,
Mhm.
I can walk into a boardroom and I can be strategic and I can be, able to influence and impact very much older CEOs of international companies. So you can have that, but you can also live in your feminine space and allow yourself to make decisions that you feel are guided by your intuition and be a heart-centered person and, put love out into the world. Like they're not either or. You can have both sides to your personality and still be successful and happy and, have these fulfilling relationships doing, having it growing a business that you love. Um, I truly believe that we have so many different facets of ourselves about knowing which one to bring when, but embracing all of it.
Yeah, you're so sweet. You're wonderful. I love it. I love it. And listeners, listen, she is incredibly sweet, even in her DMs, okay?
Okay.
Okay, this is the last
That's so
question for you,
funny.
Laura.
Okay, go for it.
Um, if we were to go back to the very first day or week of you being an entrepreneur,
Hmm.
what is the one word of advice you would give yourself?
Um, I think actually knowing why you want to do something. Um, and I say that because I had started some small businesses prior and they never went anywhere because I didn't know why I was doing it. I was just trying things. I thought, oh, this might be an idea. I'll try it out. I never really got clear on why is this a must for me? Why is this so important? Why am I willing to put everything on the line and risk everything for this? But with this business, I knew very clearly why. And so even when you face challenges and hurdles and setbacks, there's never been a doubt in my mind of turning back and going back to corporate or going back to my job that I could. I've always been so clear that this is the only way. Success is a must. And I have a mission in life to really serve women in my own unique way, in however they need it and however I can provide that to them, and really help them, as I said, break out and achieve their highest level of success and fulfillment and how that looks for them. I am very clear on my why now, and it has made the world of difference to my business and to my ability to continue forward. And persistence is key. You know that as well. We
Yeah.
all need to persist if anything's going to be successful. But I would say have a very clear understanding of why you're starting your business, why this is the business for you, and why you will persist when the challenges come because they will. It's inevitable. It's part of your success journey. It doesn't mean you're failing. It doesn't mean you have a setback and you should turn back. It means that you need to keep going. This is just another little test along the way. It's like the universe checking in. Are you really committed? Do you really want this? And if you do, you keep going. The success is inevitable.
Oh, wonderful. I love that. I love it. All right, please tell the listeners where they can find you, where they can find your podcasts, and all that good
Amazing.
stuff.
Yes, thank you, Jasmine. So my website is lauratynan.com. so just my name. I'm on Instagram. I am Laura Tynan, and LinkedIn and Facebook as well. So they're probably the best places to connect. And my podcast is on Spotify, Stitcher, and Apple Podcasts. So yeah, it's called the Corporate Breakout Code Podcast, just by the way.
Yes, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. It was so great having you.
Amazing, Jasmine. Thank you so much. This has been such a lovely conversation with you.
Yes, I've enjoyed it as well.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the show. Dive in deeper by visiting the show notes for this episode or listening to more episodes on jasminehaley.com. If you found value in the show, share with a friend or leave us a review. I'll see you next time.